So the so-called evil stepmom, Kimberly Sullivan, accused of locking her stepson up with his father for years and then by herself when the father passes away, gets house arrest. I want to read this because trying to understand what is her defense to all this going to be. Ioannis Kaloidis tells People that his client, Kimberly Sullivan, was not the one making choices about how her stepson should be raised, saying that it was her late husband, keyword late husband, right? Point the finger at the dead guy, and the boy's father, Craig Sullivan, who ultimately made all decisions regarding the boy's care. He was in control, Kaloidis said, of the victim's late father. Kaloidis claims that it was not Sullivan who decided to put the victim in that room or pull him from school at the age of 11, but rather his father. But then he died, and he was still locked up. The think tank with us. Let's bring him in. Chief Public Defender, Oakland County, Michigan. She represented the Oxford High School shooter. Paulette Lofton is with us. Former Deputy Public Defender for LA County, Philip Dubé, and Criminal Defense Attorney Silva Megerditchian is with us. Great to have you here. Okay. Before we get to the criminal part of it, because I see a 32-year-old man now who has to take care of himself. Can he just sue her and get all her money before she gives it to her lawyers? Is that possible? Can that happen here? Anyone? Let's go with Philip. Can that happen? Because that's what he deserves. He's been locked up. Like, sue her now. Freeze the assets, and I don't want her criminal defense lawyer getting whatever dollars she has in this world. And this poor kid, he's not a kid, he's 32, but he's been, locked up for all these years, has nothing.
Sure, but I think you have much more leverage if you do the criminal trial and get her convicted, because then what you do, and maybe Paulette, you can back me on this, at least out here in California, I'm sure in Michigan they do the same, you get a restitution hearing. And the beauty of that is that you've already got a criminal judgment. All you got to do is prove up your damages. If he's got hard economic losses, the standard of proof is pretty low to get restitution. And if she is convicted, I mean, that's pretty much the predicate to getting that civil restitution without having to do a full civil lawsuit with discovery, depositions.
That's true. It takes time. How about that, Paulette? What do you think?
I agree. I think going through with the criminal case first, seeing what happens there before making any further decisions. Well,
what I would do if I was the prosecutor and she wanted a deal, a condition of that deal would be restitution up front. Not a payment plan where you're going to, not pay. No, all the money up front, pay for it. Whatever the restitution is, give this 32-year-old young man who's been tortured for years something so he can have some semblance of a life once he gets physically healthy and while he works on his mental health through all of this. All right, Silva, what do you think of the defense here, pointing the finger at the dead late husband, who is the biological father?
Honestly, Vinny, they have no choice, right? I mean, obviously, she is mentally ill in some capacity. Anyone that does this to anybody, much less their stepson, they're going to argue that she was captive as well, under control, to the point that mentally she couldn't get out of it, that she continued to live under that torturous control even a year after his death. Of course it's a stretch, because he's been dead for a year now at least, and whether or not he exerted any control, she had the fortitude to get out of the situation and get her stepson out of the situation. I think the defense is really going to have to focus on the fact that obviously there's something incredibly wrong with her, have some kind of factual backup to show that he had some sort of control. But again, it looks like he did allow his son certain freedoms that completely stopped once he died. So it's a stretch of a defense, but what choice do they have? They have to defend her to the best way possible. And
let's get to that. Paulette, take a listen to this. This is from the arrest affidavit. The victim added that on weekends he would be let out of his room for longer periods of time by his father. The victim stated that while Sullivan took his sisters to events and to see friends, his father would allow him to come out and watch television with him. When discussing his father dying, he stated that his captivity and restraint got even worse. He stated that it got to a point where the only time he'd ever be let out of the house once his father died was to let the family dog out in the back of the property, stating that that was only about 1 minute a day. Paulette, this is going to be ugly. You put this in front of a jury, zero chance. It's going to be zero chance.
Yeah, a jury is not going to like her. And I think those facts that you just read are going to make that defense that we just discussed really hard. Maybe if the father was still alive, that defense would hold up. But here, father being dead now more than a year and things getting actually worse compared to better. He didn't receive any treatment, any help. He wasn't let out of the room. Now, you know, if this gentleman was really a captor and was holding them and not allowing them to do certain things, that's ended. He passed away. So there's a number of freedoms that are now, you know, able to be accessed, and things got worse. So that's going to make that defense really difficult.
All right, what's justice here, Philip Dubé? How? Because she's got to do time. She's got to do real time.
Justice here is not to do a jury trial. What I might do is meet with prosecutors and see if they would agree to waive jury, do a bench trial, and agree to a max when she is convicted. So, for example, if count one carries up to 25 years and you give each other sort of the winky wink that it only carries 20 because she's waiving jury and the trial will be over in 2 days, and you'll stipulate to full restitution, you're done. That's how you do it. On the other hand, if she refuses, if she absolutely refuses, you just do the trial and you let the chips fall where they may.
I know where they're going to fall.
Doubt.
I know where those chips are falling. I know where those are falling up in Connecticut.
Yes.
All right, Think Tank staying with us. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Karen Reed trial. There was a hearing today. Not in front of Judge Cannoni, though. It's the judge who's handling Turtle Boy's case, but it was a hearing in the Karen Reed case. We'll explain.